What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Dude Hine Show. And in this video, I'm going to be continuing my series of doing a 3-round mock draft and a free agency simulation for each NFL team. This video is of the Washington Commanders. So let's go ahead and get started here. This free agency simulation is from fanspeak.com, and the 3-round mock draft will be from profootballnetwork.com. So let's go ahead and get started on Fanspeak here. Here's a list of players Washington can cut to kind of maybe save some money. Looking at their roster here, guys that can maybe cut, maybe just they do not want on their team anymore. There's not really anybody, in my opinion, that really stands out. I know there's possibly there's some rumors that Landon Collins could maybe be cut. I'm not going to cut him there because I know, in my opinion, I think there's a chance he stays with Washington. Looking at Washington, they have about close to $40 million in cap space, according to Fanspeak. I know if you watch and if you're looking at this roster list here, this roster list was at the beginning of the 2021 season. So some of these guys who, might have been cut during the year, something like that, is still in the roster right here. So let's go to the list of players that Washington should possibly re-sign. So guys who are free agents. I want to look at J.D. McKissick here. I want to look at him for probably about maybe, let's say, $3.5–4 million. Him and Gibson are very underrated running back duo. Let's try $4 million for 2 seasons. Percentage guarantee will go 80. So he'll accept that. He does. So we're able to re-sign J.D. McKissick. Obviously, at the top of the list, you see Ryan Fitzpatrick. If I'm Washington, I'm not re-signing Ryan Fitzpatrick. I just don't get what he, adds to Washington. Washington finds a great quarterback, or even a good quarterback. I really think they could be contenders in the NFC. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, in my opinion, he's just so inconsistent. He's really like Taylor Heineke. They're pretty much the same, and they can be really good at times, but other games they're just so bad. Some other players here I'm looking at as we continue here are Troy Apke. He doesn't really play a ton on defense. He's more so of a special teams guy. I'm going to try him maybe 1.5. Let's try, let's say 2 years for him. Percentage guarantee, go 90. So able to re-sign Troy Apke and J.D. McKissick. They got their list here. Obviously, you see Brendan Sheriff. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. They've signed him in the past when people didn't really think that was going to happen. But I think this is finally the year where he leaves Washington. Be very interesting to see where he goes. And with him leaving, obviously, that leaves a big hole in their guard position in the offensive line. So, if you don't re-sign him, that's pretty much going to go to your, second most important position that you need to upgrade in the offseason. Obviously, first is quarterback because, there was rumors coming out past week or so. I don't know how much truth there is to it, but Washington supposedly called every single NFL team about their starting quarterback to possibly, trade to get him because Washington, Denver, some of those teams, in my opinion, I think they're just one quarterback away. They can find a good quarterback, not even a great one. I think both of those teams can be very, very good. Looking at, the free agents here, today is the deadline for the franchise tag. So some of these guys on here, for example, Devontae Adams, he's expected to be for the franchise tag. Some of these guys have already maybe signed or re-signed with their teams for the franchise tag deal, like Jesse Bates and some other people as well. But, to me, if I'm Washington, I'm looking at quarterback, I'm looking at wide receiver, definitely looking at offensive guard, with us not be able to re-sign Brandon Sheriff. Let's go ahead and look at guard first because there's several nice guards here. Quentin Spain, he really stands out to me. Being a Bengals fan, watching Quentin Spain so much, he's very underrated. Obviously, if you watch the Super Bowl, he did not play good, going up against Aaron Donald, but it's Aaron Donald, one of the best defensive players of all time. But I feel like Quentin Spain would be a nice addition to Washington. A.J. Kane, a guy who's been with Jacksonville the last several years, has been pretty nice. Kind of looking at Connor Williams, see if he's available here. Guy from Dallas. I don't think that would be a bad signing here. Maybe try Connor Williams for, let's say, 6.5, 6, something like that. Right, 6.5 here. for a 3-year deal. Percentage guarantee will go 75. And I know if you're watching these videos, if you've seen them before, you might think I do my percentage guarantee high, which it is the case, but on FanSpeak, you have to do it for people that sign with your team. And also, if you're a team, I'm not saying the Washington is a bad team, but for example, if you look at a team like the Jaguars or the Lions, who is a team who's in a rebuilding situation and they don't really have many star players, there are times where you have to have if you sign a marquee free agent, you have to have that percentage guarantee very, very high to kind of, help persuade that top, free agent to come to your team. So, that's something else with the guaranteed money. For example, look at the Bengals and Jesse Bates. That's probably pretty much the main reason why they did not get an extension done so far, is because guaranteed money. That's something that players, think very, very high of when it comes to contract signings and everything like that. So we offer Connor Williams 6.5 for a multi-year deal. We'll see if he accepts that just in a second here. I want to see if there's any top wide receivers available. Allen Robinson kind of comes to mind. I know you have Terry McLaurin, extremely underrated receiver. Curtis Samuel was not really what they expected this past season. I know he was hurt, but even when he was healthy, he wasn't that great. Allen Robinson, that's an interesting one. I'm looking at DJ Chark. I think DJ Chark would be a nice addition. Also here, I feel like do not be surprised if this happens. Let me try to find him on this list. I don't see him so far. Let me see. So wide receivers played for the Colts this past season. Zach Pascal, how do you say his name? Zach Pascal, something very interesting about him. If I had to pick one wide receiver who will sign with the Washington football team in free agency, I'm 100% picking Zach Pascal. The reason is he's not going to be wide receiver number one. Okay, that spot is already, obviously to Terry McLaurin. He could be a good wide receiver 3. He showcased that this past season in Indianapolis. If you look at Taylor Heineke, he played at Old Dominion, with the Monarchs years ago. And something very interesting, Zach Pascal, of all the places he played at college, he actually played at Old Dominion as well with Taylor Heineke. So Taylor Heineke played with Zach Pascal with at Old Dominion at the same time. So I think that's something there. They already kind of have some chemistry. They played together in college. So I would not be surprised if the Washington football team will maybe sign him at all. I think that was, actually has a decent chance of happening. It's not being talked about much. But I'm going to go ahead and offer him a deal here, $5 million per season for a, let's say 2-year deal. Because obviously, the chemistry and the connection between Heineke is interesting, but we also have to look at the fact that there's a good chance Heineke might not be with Washington after this season. So do a 2-year deal, 5 per season, 80% guarantee for Zach Pascal. Also looking at some of these guys here, I feel like they could use a little bit more, just a tad bit more help at linebacker. Let's see here who's available. I'm kind of looking at Nick Vigil or Neville Hewitt. Both those guys are very good. We'll try Neville Hewitt. We're trying to, their defense is already good. It wasn't as good as people thought it was going to be this past season. But getting Neville Hewitt will kind of get more depth at the linebacker position. We'll try a 1-year deal for $4 million, percentage guarantee. We'll go 85. Neville Hewitt's one of those guys who, has been pretty underrated, honestly. I believe he had 60 or 70 tackles with the Texans this past season, but the year prior he had over 100. So let's go ahead and see who we were able to sign so far. So we had all 3 of those players accept our deals. That's pretty good for us so far. That honestly does not really happen often. Normally, it takes a couple of times for players to sign with you. With Zach Pascal, signing him, I don't think they're going to sign a marquee wide receiver. I don't know if you would consider DJ Chark a marquee wide receiver or not. That, in my opinion, I think that's somebody to keep an eye on for Washington. But looking at some more guys here, I think they could use a tad bit more help at safety. So some guys here. I'm kind of looking at Xavier Woods or Malik Hooker. Of those guys available, I see Hooker there. I don't think I see Woods. So we'll try Malik Hooker or Justin Reed. We'll try Justin Reed for a 1-year deal worth $3 million. getting some more, depth and more bodies in the secondary position. I mean, look at Washington. I mean, they have such a young talent on defense. They'll just find their quarterback that can be very, very good. I actually kind of want to find a veteran quarterback who's been around the league for a long time. I'm kind of looking at a guy like Andy Dalton or, Colt McCoy, Joe Flacco, something like that, because I fully expect Washington to draft a quarterback in the first round. I feel like most people would. So you have Heineke, who's been around a couple of years, and you have a guy who's going to not only mentor Heineke, but also mentor, your rookie quarterback. Maybe it could be Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, who knows. But I'm kind of looking at Andy Dalton. Let's go ahead and try him. Let's say $5 million. I know what you're thinking. Right, that's a little bit too much for Andy Dalton, who's probably not going to start. I don't disagree, but backup quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks one of the most difficult positions to play in the NFL. You kind of have to overpay them at times just to get a good one, because if your starting quarterback goes down, I mean, it's hard to find a good one. And I feel like Andy Dalton's one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. So Andy Dalton and Justin Reed both accept our deal. We're not getting marquee free agents, but we're just getting some nice additions to this Washington team. Looking at it here, I feel like I could use a little bit more help at defensive tackle and corner. Defensive tackle, there's a couple guys I like. Josh Tupou, Larry Ogunjobi, B.J. Hill. There's a couple other ones. Let's see here. Maurice Hurst is another one. I like him quite a bit. B.J. Hill, I think I saw him, which is kind of interesting because the Bengals are probably going to sign B.J. Hill. I feel like they will re-sign him and let Larry Ogunjobi, test out free agency. Andrew Billings is also another one I'd like quite a bit. We'll try Andrew Billings here. We'll try $3 million for Andrew Billings on a 1-year contract. Percentage guarantee will go 85. Now corner, let's see here what we can get at corner. I like Mackenzie Alexander. He spent all of his NFL season with Minnesota except for 1 year. And, he has so much familiarity with Mike Zimmer. And since Mike Zimmer is no longer with the Vikings, I fully expect Mackenzie Alexander to not return to Minnesota in the 2022 season. He's one of the best slot corners in the NFL. I'm going to try him for, let's say, 3.5. Or let's try 2-year contract with Mackenzie Alexander. Percentage guarantee will go 90. See if he will accept that. So we don't have a ton of money if both these guys end up signing with us. They both sign with us. This is actually very, very crazy. This does not happen often, that every single one of these offers they accept it instead of declining their offer. You have $6 million left in free agency and cap space. Normally you say about $3 or $4 million for your draft picks and stuff like that. I want to kind of look at, does anybody else that really kind of stands out to me? Let's see here. Wide receivers, I mean, there's not really much you can get for very, very cheap. Looking at it here, we have $6 million. Some of these guys, probably will get just about that. Christian Kirk kind of intrigues me a little bit. We'll try him. I don't figure he would sign with us. We'll just try a 3-year contract. I know it's probably a little bit of a low ball offer, but since we don't have much cap space at the moment, we'll try a 1-year contract. Percentage guarantee would just go, let's just give him 100 because since we're low balling him so much. If he accepts it, I think, that'd be nice for us. He accepts it. It's kind of very surprising to me. He accepts that deal. I know we signed 2 wide receivers, and I know what you're thinking. If you're a diehard Washington fan, we don't desperately need a wide receiver. I don't disagree with that, but I just feel like you can get more weapons. The more weapons, the better your quarterback has more likely a chance to succeed in the NFL. I mean, look at, some of these guys like Matthew Stafford. He had Megatron and Detroit, and then he goes to the Rams in his first season. He wins the Super Bowl. So I feel like looking at this, free agency simulation on FanSpeak, I thought we did pretty good. We did not get any marquee free agents, but we signed guys who I feel like can really contribute to Washington, not only this upcoming season, but years, followed. I mean, we re-signed J.D. McKissick. We also re-signed Troy Apke. We signed Zach Pascal, Connor Williams, Neville Hewitt, Andy Dalton, Justin Reed, Andrew Billings, Mackenzie Alexander, and Christian Kirk. Like I said, there's no significant mega deal like a like a Devontae Adams or like a Michael Gallup or something like that. But I feel like all those guys can really contribute to Washington. Looking at it here, as we continue on this, video, we did the FanSpeak free agency simulation for the Washington football team, and now here is the 3-round mock draft for the Washington football team. This is from ProFootballNetwork.com. So 3-round mock draft for Washington. We are pretty much 100% taking a quarterback round 1. So as we get started here, obviously Washington picks 11th overall. This is interesting. Malik Willis is available. His hype train has skyrocketed ever since the combine several days ago. Kenny Pickett intrigues me a little bit here as well. I feel like it might be a little bit more of a reach at Pickett at 11. Willis feels more appropriate and right here at 11. Honestly, I'm not sure if he'll be available because when you look at quarterback needy teams, 7, 8, 9, the Giants, Falcons, Broncos, all those teams in the quarterback, even 6 with the Panthers, they need a quarterback, but I don't think they'll take one that early. Let's go ahead and take Malik Willis here, the quarterback of Liberty. Great draft choice by Washington. As we see here, in the second round here, the 42nd pick overall, Washington has 1 first, 1 second, and 1 third-round pick. This is interesting because when you look at Washington, we already kind of, got the, some wide receivers out of the way. We drafted the quarterback of the future. We had some nice, free agency signings, but nothing major. Devontae Wyatt, the defensive tackle from Georgia, intrigues me a little bit. I know they're good at defensive line, but it's one of those times where you should always take best player available, in my opinion, because, they have some nice guys in the defensive line, but eventually those guys are going to be free agents. Drake Jackson also intrigues me. I want to take Devontae Wyatt here. I know people might not really like it. It might not be a team need, but you should always take best player available. Let's see here. Washington with the 73rd pick overall. With their third-round choice, looking at some of the guys here, Kyron Williams, a really nice running back from Notre Dame. As we see here, Jake Ferguson, the tight end from Wisconsin. Kind of looking at defense, let's see here. Nick Benito, I like him quite a bit, the edge from Oklahoma. He's very, very good. Kobe Bryant, the corner from Cincinnati, and also a guy who I think is going to, go up draft boards now after a very impressive combine, is Tariq Woolen, the corner from UTSA. Like I mentioned, Washington can use a little bit more help at corner. William Jackson was not that good. He is not worth that money that they signed him a year ago. We're going to take corner here. And I'm not trying to fixate on taking corner around 3, but in my opinion, I really feel like Kobe Bryant and Tariq Woolen are some of the best players available here at the 73rd pick overall. We're going to take Tariq Woolen here from UTSA. I think it's a good draft pick. By Washington, they really help, their team here by getting their franchise quarterback. They get some more depth at defense tackle. They get a nice corner who could really help them out in the future. And that's a great draft, in my opinion, for the Washington Commanders. Still kind of weird saying Commanders instead of football team and the Redskins. It's kind of hard getting used to their new name and everything. So we're going to kind of look at this Washington schedule here in the 2022 schedule. And based on the moves in this video, I want to see how many wins I think Washington can get this upcoming season. So when you kind of look at the schedule, kind of have them in groups by 4. The Bears, Cowboys, Lions, and Texans, I feel that they can beat any of those teams, but it just really depends with the quarterback. I want to say 2 wins there. Colts, Giants, Eagles, and 49ers. I feel like they can win maybe 2 there, so that's 4 wins so far. Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, Packers. I really feel like they can win 2 in those. I just really feel like if they get their quarterback and if they get the right quarterback, they can really beat anybody. But with their inconsistent play at quarterback with Heineke, it's kind of hard saying they can beat anybody in the NFL. So the Vikings, Jaguars, Titans, Browns, and Falcons, I can maybe see 2 or 3 there. So Washington, I'm kind of looking at maybe like the 7, 8, possibly 9 wins for the 2022 Washington Commanders season and their record, their first season for the Washington Commanders, with their new name. That really about does it for this video. Finishing up my Washington Commanders free agency simulation and a 3-round mock draft from Pro Football Network. We also kind of looked at what their record may look like in the 2022 season based on the moves we made in this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Or if you've seen my videos before, make sure to like this video and subscribe. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for listening, and I will see you all next time on the Sports Dude Hines Show.